Welcome to our online FLM Chocolate Reserve Bar tasting. I'm going to be your host, Tammy Jo. We're on this delicious chocolate journey. We're going to wait a few minutes just to make sure that everybody's logged in. So if you're already here, go ahead and open up your bars and get them ready to eat. So when you open them up, you'll notice that they are segregated into little squares. So you can just kind of break off one square at a time if you want to eat the whole bar. No judgment here. Eat the whole thing if you want to. Or you can just break it apart, and it feeds about 8 people. All right, we got some more people joining us. So I'd like for this to be very interactive. If you guys would like to, you can turn on your cameras if you want, or you can come off of mute and ask any questions that you'd like, and I will answer them to the best of my knowledge. Hello.
Hi.
All right, so we'll probably get started in a few minutes. I just want to give a couple more minutes just to make sure that everybody can kind of log in and get on the site. Don't forget your drink of choice. I'm going to be drinking water, but there's a lot of delicious wine pairings that we suggested with this. So if you haven't already, go ahead and get those. I'm very excited about this because I am a huge fan of dark chocolate. So this is like, I think so far going to be my favorite tasting because I love dark chocolate. And I've built up a tolerance over the years from eating so much. So now I have to have the darker, more bitter chocolate. So has anyone that's already here, have you guys ever done a tasting before with us?
Yes.
Cool. Did you do it virtually or in person?
In person.
Awesome. I'm actually gonna turn my volume up.
Last New Year's week.
That's awesome.
We've done multiple virtuals and we've done a couple in person.
Very cool. Aw, thank you so much. I've missed you guys. Oh, I love I love this job. It's like the best job. But if you're able to come visit in store, I'm in stores. I work at the airport stores, I work at factory stores. Sometimes I work at the California hotel casino store. So I venture out. I'm all over. I'm so glad you guys are here. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna have a good time. We got some really good chocolate to eat tonight, so I'm excited. All right, it's 1 after. I'm gonna wait 1 more minute just to make sure that everyone's in before we get started. So again, if you haven't already, remember to open up your boxes or your little chocolate boxes and break off a piece that you want to eat now. Make sure you have a drink of choice with you, water, wine, beer, whatever you wanted to select to go with your chocolates tonight. We are going to be doing a holiday tasting as well. We're in the works on that, so there's going to be more coming. All righty. I think we can go ahead and get started. It's 2 after. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this tasting. And so let me close this, get this off my screen so I can see. All righty. So tonight we are going to be doing the Reserve Bar tasting. They are single origin chocolate bars, meaning that they are from a very specific region. And we're going to talk about each one when we get to those bars. But first, we're going to be going over the history of Ethel M chocolate, so you know a little bit more about us in case you are new to our virtual tastings. So the M in Ethel M stands for Mars, as in Mars bars, M&Ms, Skittles, Twix, Three Musketeers, Snicker bars, and so much more. Dove chocolate as well. Ethel and Frank started making chocolate in their home in Tacoma, Washington in 1911. And from there, their passion grew and they started the Mars Company. Their son, Forrest, grew up making chocolates in his mom's kitchen with her. Of course, he worked for the family business. He retired in 1976, moved out here. Hold on 1 second. We had a few more people opening. Hello, Tammy. I am also Tammy. I go by Tammy Joe. Welcome. So we're just going over the history. So if you have just jumped on, you haven't missed anything yet. We haven't started eating any chocolate without you. So yes, the M in Ethel M stands for Mars, and their son retired from the family business in 1976, moved out to Henderson, Nevada, where we are located. And that is our factory store. He opened the factory and named it after his mother, Ethel Mars, and it's still family owned today. His plan for retirement was to grow a beautiful cactus garden and just relax and enjoy the desert. But he got bored after that and he wanted to do more gourmet chocolates. And so he came out of retirement, started bringing back the buttercreams and toffees his mom originally started making back in 1911. And he opened it up. Then we opened the garden. So a couple years after the factory was open, we opened in 1981. So we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. So we're really excited about that. We've been sharing his family's traditions for 40 years. So that's pretty amazing. The garden started up a couple years after. He has over 300 species of plants in the garden. We light it up every year for Christmas. I don't know if you have come or maybe you're planning to, but reservations are open. So if you do want to come see our lights, reservations are available online. You can also buy little chocolate hot cocoa kits with that, so that when you go in to check in, the hot chocolate's ready for you and you can just enjoy the lights right after checkout. So every year we light it up, and it starts November 6th is opening night. And if you can't make it for Christmas, we do it in November or for Valentine's Day. The first 2 weeks of February, we do it for for Valentine's Day as well. So look forward to that too. Then we have our solar garden. 100% of our power during peak hours is from our solar garden. There's over 2,000 solar panels in the garden, and we're really proud of that. That's one of the many ways we're trying to be completely sustainable, and it's just a really cool and awesome thing. All right, so now that we're done with the history, we're going to go ahead and move on to how to eat chocolate properly. So sight, touch, smell, taste, and sound. Sometimes we don't pay attention to these. It's just autopilot. We don't realize we're using all of our senses when we're eating, but we are. So we really want to be mindful and pay attention to all of those things tonight. So sight is really going to help you identify what you're noticing in your piece. Hold on one moment. I'll make sure everyone got in. All right, so if you're just now joining, welcome. Don't worry, we haven't started eating chocolate without you yet. So to eat chocolate properly, we're really going to think about the way that it looks, think about what went into making that piece, how the design looks, the touch, is it bumpy, is it smooth, what does that tell you about the piece? But tonight, what we're really going to focus on is smell. We are eating tablet bars, so they're all going to be kind of shaped, and they're all going to look very similar. There is some subtle differences in the color based on the fact that some of them have a higher cocoa content. So we're going to be starting at 62% and going higher. So the sight, subtle differences there, touch, they're probably all going to feel the same, but still you want to kind of take that moment to really think about the touch when you're eating it. You know, how does it feel on your palate when you're taking your bite, when you're letting it melt? What does that feel like? Is there differences? And remember to write down these notes on the, if you got a placemat or like a piece of paper, write down notes so you can really kind of experience the entire thing. And then of course, smell. This is my favorite part. Chocolate smells amazing. And so by smelling it, you're heightening everything. So you really want to try to really pick out those little words on the flavor wheel that jump out at you when you're smelling it. Like what floral, are you getting floral notes? What specifically in that earthy category is really jumping out at you? And it really makes a huge difference when you're eating it if you pay attention to what you're smelling first. Now, when you take your bite of your bar, you don't want to chew and just kind of swallow it right away. What you want to do is you don't really want to chew it very much. You just want to take your bite, like take a small bite, and then just kind of push it up to the roof of your mouth and just let it melt and really think about, again, the texture. Is it melting fast? Is it melting very slowly? Can I still feel it now that it's gone? And what flavor notes really jumped out at you the most? Alrighty. Any questions so far? So up first, we have our bar. It's 62% Indonesian. So go ahead, and I've already opened up my box and got my little square out. So go ahead and open up your box, break off your square, and notice the coloring of it. It almost is kind of very shiny. It's very milky looking. Take a deep breath in and remember to smell your chocolate. And if you're having a hard time smelling it, what you can do is you can kind of rub the bottom of it. It'll warm it up and then cup it. And it really isolates the smell. I definitely smell roasted notes with this one. Definitely fruity. It kind of smells like, kind of like raspberries to me. All right, so whenever you guys are ready, go ahead and take a bite. And you want to remember, don't chew too much. Just kind of let it melt away. It's kind of like we're meditating with chocolate. Notice how quickly it melts. It like kind of slowly just melts away. And really look at that flavor wheel. That's really going to help you identify what category you're noticing the most. Like what jumps out at you. My favorite part about the flavor wheel is that there is no wrong answer. We're all experiencing the same chocolate and having the same experience together, but we're all different. So we're all going to have our own unique opinion about what we're experiencing. And by sharing what you're experiencing, it kind of helps everyone else experience it too through your eyes. So that's kind of really, or through your taste, I guess you should say. So for me, I'm definitely getting a lot of fruitiness from this one. It has a lot of fruity, I would say kind of sour like a pineapple. Definitely like a raspberry note too, but lots of earthy tone as well. So it's going to go into that earthy category. I would say maybe leather, and then definitely roasted, right? A lot of roasted flavor. This is 62% cacao, so it's going to have a little bit stronger than our normal chocolate that we have in our store. So while you guys are enjoying the piece, I'll talk to you about some really cool fun facts about this one. So Indonesia is made up of 17,000 islands. And specifically, the beans that are for this particular bar, we source them from, it's kind of hard to pronounce, but I think I've mastered it. So I always get tongue-tied, I'm sorry. Sulawesi. So they specifically source from Sulawesi Island for this particular bar. And it has, the islands are made up of overgrown volcanic, dormant volcanoes, and just really beautiful overgrown forests. It's really rich and beautiful there. And the bird on the packaging, it's so beautiful, it's so colorful. It is known as the red-throated sunbird, and it flies through the trees and is constantly singing its beautiful song all day long. All right, so if you guys want to share, please feel free to let me know what did you guys pair this particular chocolate with. Our suggestions are Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, which is my personal favorite, aged rum. Sipping aged rum also goes really well with this one. And I'd love to know what you guys thought. What category jumped out at you guys? You can come off mute if you'd like to, or you can even type it in the chat box. I definitely get the cherry, absolutely. Coffee, toasted, right? Absolutely. Espresso, smooth and fruity, it's very velvety, right? It just kind of like, it's very silky. Very true. It does melt in your mouth very, very quickly. And I love that about this piece. It kind of like, it melts quickly, but it also kind of stays as a solid piece. It's really interesting how it melts away. All right, guys. So now we're going to go into some more fun facts about the chocolate, starting with where they grow. So this is known as the cacao belt. Cacao trees can only grow in this area. And so what is so special about single origin? What does that mean? It means that the beans are sourced from a specific country and specific area. And because of that, that's going to flavor the bean in a different way based on its environment. So what we call that is terroir. Terroir is basically the plants, animals, and things that grow around and live in that area. And that's going to help to change and make subtle differences on how the beans are going to taste. Now, normally we blend our cacao so that we can have the, how you say, we can depend on that flavor. It's going to be the same flavor every time. But the reason why these are so special is because they're single origin. So you cannot get this a couple years from now because the terrain might be different. And so that's going to affect that flavor when you're doing single origin. So that's why this tasting is so unique and special. So cacao trees can only grow 20 degrees north and south of the equator, again, because of the environment. So South America, West Africa, and parts of Asia are the main areas where you can find cacao trees. And fun fact, Hawaii is one of the only states that can grow cacao trees. All right, up next, we have some more detail about the tree. So when cacao trees are growing, they can start blooming flowers when they're 3 years old, but they hit full maturity at 6 years, and they can live up to 25 years. When the flowers bloom, they'll bloom from the base of the trunk all the way up into the branches, and it looks kind of like a little miniature orchid. They're very, very tiny. And once they get pollinated, it takes 4 to 6 months to grow a full-size pod. And this is what a pod would look like. This is just a rubber replica of what, like how big it would be. I actually have another one. This one's like a real pod. I call it the shrunken head version because it's dehydrated, but you can hear the beans are still inside. And this is how thick the stem would be. That's the stem of the pod. So when they're harvesting, they have to use machetes to cut them off the tree because they can't just pull it off and twist it and just pull it off the tree because again, it has a really thick stem. So they have to use a machete to cut them off, crack them open, and scoop out the beans. Now, this one is, again, pretty accurate to an average size pod. And the beans inside, there's going to be about 25 to 60 beans in each pod. And so I'd like to ask you guys a question. How many pods total do you think it would take to make 1 pound of chocolate? For those who have done this before, you might already know the answer. So let's see if you remember. For those who are new, go ahead and put in the comments how many pods you think it would take to make 1 pound. Again, how many pods would it take to make 1 pound? There's 25 to 60 beans in each pod. And if you don't want to type it, you can always come off mute and let us know what you think. How many pods would it take to make 1 pound? All right, I see that. Okay, so we've got a lot of guesses. 25, 20, 25, 20, 22. All right, so there was one group that had a lot of people in your group. One of them got it right. So that's pretty cool. 250. So the correct answer is 10. It takes 10 pods to make 1 pound of chocolate. So when they're done harvesting the pods off the tree, they're going to crack them open. They're going to scoop out all of the beans, and they're going to leave that delicious pulp on the bean. That's going to help during fermentation. And fermentation, basically, there's a big, huge box, and they will put them in a big, giant heap. Sometimes they also just lay banana leaves down, and they'll put it in a big heap on the ground and cover it up with banana leaves and leave it like that. And it basically will sit in the sun for 5 days. And the heat from the sun will break down the sugars in the pulp. And that changes the acidity of the bean and prepares it for making chocolate. From there, then they go to the sun drying table. This takes another 5 to 7 days, depending on the weather. But what they're doing is to remove the excess moisture in the bean that's left over from the pulp. So they'll spread it out in a thinner layer, and they're going to constantly check it and rotate it throughout the day to really fully dry it out so they're able to ship it. All righty, up next we have our next chocolate box, bar. So this one is our 65% cacao. It's a little bit darker, a little bit richer. This one is from Guana. So again, take a deep breath in, rub that chocolate a little bit, warm it up. And really think about what you're noticing in the smell. For me, I'm noticing more earthy tones with this one. Again, it's going to get more earthy and more roasted as we go because of the cacao content getting stronger. This one is definitely giving me kind of woodsy or maybe tobacco kind of scent to it. Very sweet, very smooth. All right, so whenever you guys are ready, go ahead and take a bite. If you would like to, there's a really cool, fun nose trick you can try. Smell your chocolate. Hold your nose shut like as if you're going underwater for the first time, and hold it shut while you take your bite. Hold it for as long as you can as it's melting, and then let go of your nose. And all of a sudden you'll get like a wave of flavor. It'll be a little bit more intense. And if you haven't already, remember to cleanse your palate between each piece. I'm actually going to do that because I think I forgot. All right. Really think about what you're noticing in that flavor wheel. What is jumping out at you? So this one's very smooth, still a little fruity, a little floral there. Very rich, very creamy. Wet brownie, yes, absolutely. I was gonna say like almost like fudgy brownies. Very, very good. So good. I'm gonna take another bite because it's just so yummy. So delicious. So when you guys are sipping on your drink of choice and enjoying your chocolate, I'll talk to you about this specific area. Raspberry and apricot. I totally get that now. Absolutely. It definitely hits that note. Definitely like an apricot, like kind of when you get to the center of the apricot, it has that kind of sweet bitterness. Right? Just 3% more, and it's a lot stronger, a lot more roasted flavor. I'm getting a lot of roasted flavor from this one. It does taste creamier. Absolutely. It's like a little smoother, more velvety feeling. So this one is from Ghana, and Ghana has this really beautiful red, rich soil. And because of its red, rich soil, it's actually able to bloom year round. And it's one of the most known cacao farmings. They're the most knowledgeable, and they've been there. They have been farming for generations. So they take all their knowledge they've learned from generations and they pass that down, kind of like Ethel M. and Forrest. And so they're very knowledgeable, and that's one of the things that makes them so popular around the world. And the environment's very hot. They have a very high climate. The only way they get a cool breeze is from the breeze coming off of the Volta, Lake Volta in that area. It's going to just kind of create this beautiful breeze. It cools everything down and makes it hot, but yet cool at the same time. And the bird on the picture of this one, it's so cute. It is a purple heron. Definitely a lot of wood and leather. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that one. This one for me personally, I like to pair this one with the Pinot Noir. Zinfandel is usually my favorite, but with this one, I think Pinot Noir goes really, really well with it. Or even the Twainy port is also really good. All right. Some lemon flavor. I can see that, kind of like the sourness that the lemons have. It has kind of that like bitter, sour flavor towards the end. Like after it's faded, you kind of still taste it. Absolutely. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and cleanse our palates. If you're still working on that one, feel free to completely indulge and enjoy. But if you're ready for the next one, we'll go ahead and move on to some bean talk. Oh, I thought we were gonna, I'm so excited about the next one. I just wanted to eat it right away. The next two are my favorite ones, and they're still fruity, and I'm very excited about the last two. All right, so we last left the beans soaking up the sun, getting a nice golden suntan. So it goes from bean to bar at this point. And so beans are 50% cocoa butter and 50% cocoa solid. So when you're making dark chocolate, the more cacao solid you add to the bar is going to give it that richer flavor, a darker flavor. And because we're doing single origin, each bar, because it has a very significant place where it's coming from, that's going to give it a more unique flavor. It's very, very unique. And so each bar kind of has its own little story to tell. But the way that we process chocolate, basically, we're going to sort through the beans. We're looking for the best high fermented bean. And what that is meaning is that we're looking at the inside of the bean to make sure it's perfectly fermented, because we know that's going to give a high quality chocolate. So this is what the beans will look like. They have this kind of really rough kind of look to them. I'm going to take this one right here. It looks like it's going to come out of the shell very easily. But right now they do have a shell on them. The shell is kind of like the skin of a peanut. When you break open a peanut, there's that little skin on it, but it's a lot thicker. It's a lot more coarse. And that's what they look like. So I'm going to break one open so you guys really can see what it looks like without the shell. And it just takes a little bit of rubbing. You just kind of rub it and it comes right off. So compared to a bean that has the shell on it, this one still has the shell on. So it's kind of like really rough and not very shiny. I'm going to scoot you guys a little closer to me so you can see. But see, this one has kind of like a shiny look to it. It has like kind of like a wet, shiny look. And that's because it's 50% cocoa butter and 50% cocoa solids. So when we take the beans and we press them, the drippings from that would be chocolate. Where do the Oompa Loompas live? I like that question. And I kind of made up my own little answer to this because we actually have the opposite of Oompa Loompas. We've got really, really tall guys that work in the factory, and I call them Woompa Loompas. That's just my little inside joke with them. Because there's a few guys in there that are like just really, really, really tall. And so I always say, oh, the glass in our factory windows, when you walk through, like it adjusts your view so they look like normal size. But yeah, good question. I liked it. That was actually one of my favorite, I'm so gonna get off topic now. That was one of my favorite movies, the original with Gene Wilder. And someone asked me once, what brought me to Ethel M? And I kind of quoted a line in that movie, and I was like, I watched that movie every day as a kid. There was this one summer where I spent with my cousin, and she lived in the middle of the mountains. There was really nothing to do. There was no, internet back then or anything. And all she had was VHS tapes to watch, and no cable or anything. And so I watched that movie. I dug through all of her videos that she had. They were mostly documentaries and educational films. And I'm like, I need something different. And I found that movie, and I was like, this is it. And she showed it to me, and I watched that movie like every single day, at least 3 times a day, the entire summer. And I think I broke the tape by the time I was done watching it. It wouldn't work anymore. And I feel like it definitely has something to do with the fact that I work at a chocolate factory, and I've worked here for 20 years and I love it. So I definitely feel like it has to do a little something with that one summer. All right, I'm sorry I got off topic. So once we take the beans, we're going to roast them. And then we're going to roast them. And the reason why we have chosen the percentages that we did for each bar is because that is going to really celebrate all of the flavor that is hiding in that particular bean from that particular region. So it's really going to bring out the flavor notes. We just found that the certain way we roasted it and the amount of percentage of cacao we use for each bar is really going to celebrate all of the bright flavors that each one of them have. So once it's roasted, we grind it into chocolate liqueur. From there, that's when we decide how much percentage is going to go into each bar, whether it be 62 or 75, 80. For all Ethel M chocolates, we usually use 54% cacao on all of our dark and 34% for our milk. But the standard for milk chocolate has to be at least 10%. And for dark chocolate, it starts at 35% and of course can go higher. But today, of course, we're in the dark side. It's so good. Marshmallow, interesting. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into the next bar, which is the bar from the Philippines. So marshmallow notes, dried maraschino cherries. Interesting. All right, so let's see if everyone else notices any marshmallow and cherry notes. I definitely smell the cherry. You can definitely get like a really strong cherry flavor from this one, just by the smell alone. All right. Smelling tobacco. I was just gonna say, I pick more like a tobacco, like a cigar, like a really good smelling cigar. Like I don't smoke, but some cigars smell really good. It kind of reminds me of the smell of a cigar. Ah, tart cherries from Wisconsin. Definitely. It's like a really tart, kind of draws your jaws up a little bit. But it's very, very bright and floral too. Definitely goes into like the floral notes a little bit. I would say probably, if I was going to pick a floral note, maybe jasmine. But very, very good. Very delicious. So the cacao trees were introduced to the Philippines 4 centuries ago by traders and explorers. And they quickly thrived because of the rich clay soil that the Philippines have. So they grow really, really well there. Definitely bitter, right? It's a lot more bitter. You definitely can get that little kind of bite you back a little bit towards the end. Like even when it's fading, it's like, it kind of reminds me of black pepper too, a little bit. This one goes really well with whiskey as well. Bourbon would be my choice. I also, one of my favorite chocolates that we have a bourbon liqueur, and it's really, really good. I'm not quite sure how you can access the recording. I'll reach out to my manager and ask her if we're able to send that out to you. I think we might be able to. So this percentage is going to be 75%. That's why we're getting that stronger roasted flavor and that deeper like richness. In the Philippines, the birds that are on the packaging that are living there, they're the red-bellied pita, and they will they help, what's it called? Pollinate. They help pollinate the cacao trees. And so that's kind of what connects them to the trees. All right, so I'm kind of curious to know what everyone's favorite bar is. Cherry and orange. I felt that way too. I feel like this one has more of a brighter flavor, and it does tend to be a little bit more sweeter, even though there's a higher cocoa content. I don't think the sugar is higher on that one though either. Like when I compared the sugar added, it's pretty much, it is less than the other two that we had. All right, guys. Another cool thing about the Philippines is they have a very special fermentation that they do. It's a little bit different. They do it in like in the mounds with the leaves. And that step, the way that they ferment their beans is going to give a higher quality bean. So that's another thing that kind of makes this particular one different. So far, the Philippines is your favorite? Yeah, the higher the cocoa content, the slower it's going to melt in your mouth. And it kind of coats your palate more. This is why darker chocolate tends to pair better with red wines. It's going to coat your palate, and it kind of changes the tannins in wine. So it kind of creates this kind of velvety, silky smooth texture when you're going back and forth between wine and chocolate, because it's coating your palate. All right, and if you guys are ready to go ahead and try the next one, let's go right ahead and jump into that last bar. This one is the Dominican Republic, 80% cacao. Definitely get some earthy tones with this one. And you can hear that nice snap when you break it, or when you bite into it too, you hear that nice little snap, perfectly tempered chocolate. I always took a bigger bite of that one. This one has that really like jet black flavor. Really intense. Definitely got that, definitely goes into earthy with leather. Raisin and espresso. I get I get that like towards the end as it fades, that raisin flavor. Absolutely. Definitely coffee. Definitely notice the coffee right away. Very strong, very intense. I love it. So good. That one's my favorite. That one's my favorite bar out of all of them. And it's really, really just a lovely, lovely flavor. This particular beans where we source, it is in the heart of the Caribbean Sea. And the climates have, it's got a really hot climate there, very, very humid. So again, perfect weather for cacao trees. And this particular area, it's going to have fresh water and sea lake water. I said that word, I'm sorry. Saltwater and freshwater lakes is what I meant to say. Sorry about that. So that's kind of like a really unique thing that's going to bring out the flavor in the chocolate. And the bird on this one is the purple gallinule. I might be pronouncing that wrong. But yeah, this one's my number one favorite. I'm going to put up a poll again, and I want to see what everyone's favorite chocolate is. So I'm launching a little questionnaire. So go ahead and click on your favorite piece. I want to see what everyone's number one is. Oh, so far it looks like 80s is winning. Oh, it looks like the Philippines won one, the 75% cacao. All right. $65 was the runner-up for you? Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, my favorite is the Philippines and the Dominican Republic, the 75 and 80%. I like the darker, richer flavor notes, but the other two are also really, really good. But yeah, does anybody have any questions out there? Or anything they wanted to share about the chocolate that they enjoyed? Philippines followed by Ghana. Very cool. Yeah, they're all good. I mean, there's no chocolate I have met that I did not like. And even though I might not care for it all the time, still love it. Oh, that's a very good question. How do we decide on which percentage to use? So when we're making the chocolate and we're roasting it and we're testing out the percentages, we really want to be mindful of the different flavor notes that particular bean has. So we will try it at different percentages, and we pick the one that we feel is going to celebrate all of the nuances and flavor notes that are coming from that particular bean to really kind of celebrate all of the flavor. So they do test it out and try a few different ones until we find the right one. It's going to really bring out the full flavor without overpowering it. If it's too strong, you might not get all of those fruity notes because they're not going to come across if it's too strong. So that's, you know, they do test it out, and the chocolatiers, they're specially certified for this particular chocolate bar. And we did this in very small batches. So we don't have a lot of them. They're not going to be around for a long time. We're only going to be doing it, I think, for like, it's a very small batch. of each bar that was created. So that's what's really special about this one, is they're not going to be here for very long, and we can't really redo them because, again, the seasons change, the terrain changes a little bit here and there. And so when you do get single origin, it's going to tell kind of a different story each time. It's going to be subtly different. And but they do mix it up and try to figure out what's the best percentage to really bring out the flavor of that particular bean from that year. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to pop it in. I'm gonna give you guys a little extra tidbit. This is a QR code. So if you do need more chocolate or some more reserve bars, you can go on to take a picture with your phone and go to the link. It will take you to a survey. You just do the survey, and then it will email you a coupon code to get 20% off. And please ignore the date. I apologize, I didn't realize the date was incorrect. That is not the correct date, it's not expired. You guys remember me in the costume last year? Oh, that's so cool. I'm looking forward to holiday too. It's going to be really fun. I don't know if we're planning a Halloween one again, but I know we're planning Christmas, and there's some private ones I'm doing for Halloween, but yeah, it's awesome. Thank you guys so much. I'm so glad you joined me today, and I hope you had fun on your chocolate journey, and hope to see you again, maybe in person on a chocolate journey. And don't forget to scan that code. You can get 20% off after the survey. It's a really quick survey, and it helps us to improve and get better at our tastings, doing things different. So please feel free to, there's a spot where you can give us your comments and some feedback. Please give us your feedback, because it just makes us better, and it makes it more fun and interesting for you guys. So I hope you guys do it. And the coupon usually expires a week after you get it. So it usually is to the following weekend. So if you do the survey, it'll send you a message, and it'll give you the date of when it expires. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful evening and enjoy the rest of your chocolates. And don't forget to try, if you haven't tried those wine pairings or any of the pairings, feel free to try those again. Let us know what you thought, what one you liked the most. Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful night and enjoy the rest of your weekends.